Amazon's response to the Rings of Power release has been insane. It's like an immune system kicking in. It all started with the audience scores, and they weren't fond of it, and this wasn't unexpected considering everything we knew about the show and what they'd changed about Tolkien before the show had even released. And Amazon going into defense mode was also expected. We already knew that the reason why it was going to succeed is because they needed it to. Their future jobs relied on it being a success. If they can't make a success of the biggest fantasy IP of all time, then why are they always here? It has to succeed. There is no other option. So we always knew they were going to spin it, that this was one of our biggest ever. The numbers are incredible. We're so happy with it. And when you combine going against canon with having a marketing strategy of the sheer budget of the show being one of the main draws anyone's even interested in the first place, it's not exactly the best hook. People will watch your first episode, but after that they go on quality alone. And after the 3 hours of tripe that we've had so far, how many people are going to go into it in the future? And so Amazon had to start pulling something special to try and keep people there. But their marketing strategy has been atrocious, a complete disaster ever since they first came out and revealed it with the whole Superfans videos. And since release, that strategy has only got worse. This is what led them to delaying the reviews for 3 days at the first place. Apparently something that, oh yeah, we put in for an entirely different project that just happened to be just a few weeks before we released Rings of Power. Totally coincidental, I'm sure. But now you can actually review the show on Amazon, and things are getting very, very suspicious. As you find all the 5-star reviews, people don't really find them that helpful, compared to the 1-star reviews, which apparently a lot of people do. But there's a larger, more disgusting and repulsive tactic, which marketing departments have been using for a while now, and it's one I've never been able to understand. And that is coming out and attacking the fans, attempting to silence and intimidate any critics of the show, and just start calling them some of the worst, most discriminatory, insulting slurs they can find. Want to create 2 distinct groups. You've got all the good, moral people who really enjoy the show, and then you've got all the disgusting, filthy peasants who are just horrible, discriminatory bigots. Which one do you want to be? Because it's a simple choice. We don't care about truth, the beliefs, your values. No, it comes down to a simple choice. Do you like the show? Or do you not? Oh, because if you don't like the show, are we going to slander your good name in the press? And we are going to get everyone on board with this kind of behavior. Amazon are going to announce to the world just how low an opinion they have of their own fan base. And then Star Wars are also going to come forward and join in the fun. Because hey, it's not like they haven't done it before. Exactly the same thing when Obi-Wan Kenobi was also criticized for being absolute trash. Because it's a defense that we've all seen many times before, with so many arguments that annihilate it from existence. It's not a strong argument, it's not a good marketing strategy, and it's not going to make anyone watch your show. The only thing it allows you to do is preach and feel good about yourself, to try and put yourself on the moral high ground on social media. But it's not going to get you anything that matters. It's not going to get you views, it's not going to get you fans, and it's certainly not going to make you any money. So why are all these marketing departments so obsessed with it? Why are multiple marketing departments from entirely different companies all using the same tactics? Are these just new original marketing strategies they've developed entirely separately that just happen to be the same? Or do we get taught this in our marketing degrees from various different universities around the world? Welcome to The Conversation, an academic website. Now, this Deakin University lecturer obviously knows a lot about the entire culture which Tolkien talked about and was raised in, given that they're Australian. Their in-depth knowledge of what it was like to be in England in the 1950s notwithstanding, we get an absolutely pompous article which just shows the disdain that academia has. You'll get what you want because we tell you you want it. It's valuable to us, and so we're going to subject you to it. The entire article just reeks of an intellectual arrogance that you couldn't possibly understand what I understand, and that makes you wrong if you disagree with me. Or worse, it actually makes you morally repugnant. These are the kind of institutions training the marketing departments in the first place. But it gets even better when you realize that academia itself realizes that what they're defending is also trash. And yet, even though they get a piece of entertainment which is giving them everything they desire, they're still not happy with the finished result. And they think that the solution to actually fixing what they've already destroyed is obviously just to double down and follow down on our beliefs even more. Self-awareness is certainly not their strong point. But the Amazon reviews are interesting because these are the ones that were delayed for 72 hours, and even when we come back, they're at 3.7 and 3.1 out of 5. And these reviews are filtered. Not every review gets through, and there's been many ones it's like, yeah, we're not going to accept that one. We just don't like what you wrote. So 3.7 and 3.1 are Amazon's best case scenario. But these are sorted by top reviews. And if you scroll down on the UK one, yeah, they're all 4 stars. But look at how many people found them helpful. 8, 5, 5, 0, 3, 3, 7, and 8. On the 1-star reviews, and you've got 182 found it helpful, 120, 121, 147, 128. Massively more people are finding the 1-star reviews more helpful, and yet the most helpful reviews do not appear on the top ones. You also get the same effect on the American website, it's just bigger numbers, so 113, 10, 72, whereas the 1-star reviews are all in the 200 to 100, 300 kind of range. And that's how you end up here, because the fans are not fans of the show. And let's face it, it's so boring, how could anyone be? Nothing happens in the show. It's pretty, by and large, with some terrible CGI scenes, but there's nothing to grab onto, there's nothing to keep you watching, there's no hook there to make you watch the rest of the show. And if your show is so boring, no one's gonna watch any of the rest of the episodes, even if they do improve later down the line. So they had no other excuse but to try and make out that the criticism was awful. Oh yeah, all the people that are doing it are just horrible people. They're immoral people. You don't want to be immoral, do you? That must mean you like the show. All the good people, the moral people, they love the show. It's only those disgusting, horrible peasants over there that don't like it. They're attempting to use the same kind of shame and reliance on other people's good nature, which is exactly how the idea is swept in the first place. Oh yeah, we're the good, moral, compassionate people. Not like those horrible people over there. Although I have to say about this picture, I do like that not only did they order them in order of height, but also happiness. You've got kind of, this is amazing, I love this, I'm just doing this for the money, and I can't believe my life has been reduced to this. So I'm not surprised that Rings of Power tried this. In fact, this is something they've set up for months. Deezer was going off saying some of the most ridiculous things she could possibly say in interviews. This exact narrative, it was set up months ago, even as far back in the original Variety report, did they talk about this very thing. Before anyone had even said anything about the show, because no one knew anything about it until that article. This was a shield they had ready, because they knew the tripe that they'd already created. And you can go into the arguments against this. How you're using passive-aggressive tactics to try and group everyone together, and put forth an argument where everyone knows what you mean, but if anyone pushes back against it, you go, oh, that's just a sign of your own guilt, that is. We weren't talking about you. All the kind of low IQ, bad faith tactics which people used on the internet back in 2005. Yeah, I think I'm being clever and witty, but really it's entirely transparent and everyone knows exactly the tactics we're using. Then you've got the arguments which are just entirely wrong. How you're simultaneously conflating race and culture, and how you don't even seem to understand the definition of one of them, because elves, men, and dwarves aren't even what you're describing. So if you're talking about bears, wolves, and hawks all fighting, you would not use that word for that, because it would be wrong. In Tolkien, we're talking about entirely different species of creature. It goes far beyond biological characteristics of humans. But then after attacking the fan base and insinuating that all of the critics against their show are absolutely the worst people on earth, obviously, we're going to put forth ourselves as the virtuous ones. We're the ones which are doing the correct things. We are the moral arbiters and aspirational force which everyone should follow. We thank everyone that agrees with us and follows us on every single thing, because that makes you a good person. And you want to be a good person, don't you? So obviously, that means you have to do what we say. It's a horribly manipulative mix of relying on people's good nature and their desire to do good in the world and good by other people, with peer pressure and slanderous attacks. It's the sort of thing which would definitely come out of some weird, twisted psychological study. How can we really just pressure people, prod people into agreeing with us? Look, all the good people are over here. You want to be with us, because otherwise look at those people over there, you know, the Harfoots that leave people on their own to die. Amazon puts themselves forth as the moral arbiters, the keeper of what Tolkien actually meant when he made his world. And that means that anyone that disagrees with them or criticizes anything they create, well, you're just not a Tolkien fan, obviously. And Star Wars joined them in this argument because it's a tactic they've used before with Ewan McGregor, where he released this video attacking the fans for exactly the same reasons, using exactly the same strategies. And you can tell that this was an important video for Ewan McGregor. This is something which appeared to his core values. This message was so important to Ewan McGregor that he just couldn't be bothered to put any more work in and film it on his way to the local supermarket or something. That's the attitude that you can expect from Hollywood. People who will just throw their entire fan base under the bus the moment you disagree with them. And they'll do it so casually They can't even be bothered to get out of their car and make a proper video on it. That attitude only comes when you see everyone else as beneath you. This kind of pompous arrogance towards the very people that create your career, that pay for your career, without whom you would be nothing. You wouldn't be out there getting paid millions to make movies. No, instead, Ewan would find himself among the same plebs and peasants which he so easily denigrates. And there's no way that this marketing strategy works. It doesn't get you more customers. How can it? Even if you get people to shut up and stop criticizing the show, sure, people may not hear the truthful criticism about your show, and therefore go to try it out themselves, rather than just trusting someone's opinion, which they've grown to enjoy. But they're still going to watch your first 3 episodes of your show, be bored to tears, pass out, and then forget to ever watch the rest of it because the last 3 hours were so trash. So it's not going to make you more money, it's not going to make your show successful, because it's still going to rely on the inherent characteristics of your show. It's still got to be good. So why do you engage in this marketing strategy which is clearly doomed to fail, even if it achieves the effects that you want it to, by intimidating people to shut up about it? And I think for that, we need to go to academia. It's always been strange to me, this idea of a Tolkien scholar. I can understand why they want to do it, why they want to attach themselves to a foundational piece of work in British culture. Tolkien basically invented the entire category of epic fantasy, and so attaching your name as an expert in it is a great attempt to get some of that reflective glory. Yeah, this was great, and I'm an expert in it, you see. But it's a weird thing when you try and attack fans of it. We're gonna slander them and call them the worst things in the world. Why? Well, you see, they disagree with me. And I'm just so intellectually big-brained that I, as an expert, a Tolkien scholar, understand far more of the work than any of those people over there could. Oh yeah, those are just commoners. They're not like me. They're not a member of academia. And the marketing campaign for Amazon gives them the perfect ammunition to write this kind of article. It's a flare being sent out. Use this in your stories. That's why there's so many articles came out about it, because it's great bait. Really reinforces the idea that anyone that doesn't like the show is a bad person, and you don't want to be a bad person, do you? Now, this supposed fan of Tolkien really loves the fact that they're destroying the canon in Rings of Power, and they go on to rant about a load of stuff which literally doesn't make sense and is their own personal bugbear with life, which seems to stem from an inability to actually understand basically anything on Earth. So their opinion is obviously one of quality, and yet, as a lecturer, this is someone who is actually educating the next generation. The people they educate come up, they go into other careers, they go into marketing jobs, and yet they are raised with this. They are taught this, these tactics, these ideas, which, if you read them, just come across as the rantings of an unhinged lunatic. They may attach themselves to Tolkien, say they study it, yeah, we really like that kind of thing, but, you know, he was actually a horrible person. Yeah, I mean, even though we know that he did actually fight in the world wars against the exact thing that the author supposedly doesn't like, they're then also going to accuse him of being exactly the same, even though he's actually talking about northern spirit, meaning culture, values, ideas. They obviously can only see it through one lens, that being their own personal bigotry and how they judge the world. It is interesting how all of these articles that you get always just turn out to be a massive self-report, one in which they actually despise hierarchies at all. And rather than looking at a fantasy world as a fantasy world, no, they're going to try and pretend it's all real life. If you see a dwarf as anything other than a dwarf, I hate to break it to you, but that's exactly on you, not Tolkien. When you create things, you put all the allegory in. That's what you're trying to insinuate, because you want to push your ideas onto everyone else. That was never Tolkien's point. He specifically despised allegory. It's you which loves it. Rings of Power, which loves putting it in. You can even see the internal struggle of the smooth brain, who actually think it's a contradiction in Tolkien's world, just because they lack the ability to understand how their views actually contradict physical reality, and just because they can't twist it to mean what they want it to mean. They're like, oh yeah, this actually doesn't make sense, does it? No, it doesn't. But the problem is the ideas of the author, not Tolkien's. That's why they give lip service to protecting Tolkien's legacy. But what they actually mean is, we want it all changed because we don't like it, because we think it's horrible. They actually think that it's good that it gets changed, that Tolkien's writings should be changed. This entire article was just an argument about why it should, because they actually despise Tolkien. We're going to simultaneously attach ourselves to his name, try and get some of that reflected glory, gain our authority from something that we didn't even create ourselves, and then we're going to use that to subvert it, to change it, to pervert what it was into what we need it to be going forwards for our own ends. That's why they say with Rings of Power, they've decided to protect the positive, humane aspects of Tolkien's legacy, which represented the best, rather than the limits of his imagination. Yes, because the creator of an entire genre of literature definitely has massive limits on his imagination when compared to, I don't know, two showrunners at Amazon which can't even get a writing credit on Star Trek. This is the academic rigor which loads of people go through. The same kind of institutions which create the marketing departments, which all have the same ideas, agree with each other, and think that this works. They think that anyone that criticizes their work is not just their opinion, but that their opinion actively makes them horrible people. I can see the allure of it, the tempting desire to go down that path. It's a self-defense mechanism, a cheap way to get a thick skin. If all of your critics are just horrible people, then it's very easy not just to write off their opinions, but to go through and change them, alter them, censor them. Because now you're not just doing it because you're weak-minded and thin-skinned. Oh no, now you're doing it for the good of everybody, and you're protecting society from the worst of people. Now, you're just a good moral person. And everyone likes feeling like a good moral person. But there is an interesting idea of what happens when the actual show is released, because then the conversation reviews it and they go, yeah, actually, Rings of Power sucks. Like, it's just not a good TV show. I mean, apparently, early reviews said it was so astounding that it makes House of the Dragon look amateur. But despite having a massive price tag, which a lot of people do equate to quality, and it's why they're watching in the first place, it's ponderous with clunky dialogue, tonally all over the place, and veers crazily between being insufferably pompous and cloying, exactly like the articles on your website. And they also don't like the CGI. But apart from that, this show should give them everything they want. It just supports all of their values, and their values cannot create anything entertaining, because it detracts from the only reason entertainment exists: to be entertaining. When you stop focusing on being entertaining, when you stop focusing on hiring the actors that can be entertaining, and instead start focusing on other ideas. Oh, we've got to put this idea in, and we've got to have an allegory for this. Now, the last thing you actually care about is being entertaining, and that means you produce crap. So surely Rings of Power supports all of their ideas. Why aren't they happy with it? Well, you see, the problem with Rings of Power, and what would actually make it their perfect show, is just followed their ideas even more, because it's never enough. And while they love that the casting goes against canon, yeah, you do have those Harfoots, who, as a representation of the Irish, is rather horrible, isn't it? And then, of course, Rings of Power has gauche classicism. They see the Harfoots as scruffy comedy kids from the local comprehensive, whereas the elves are simply the aristocracy who are privately educated. And this, of course, embarrasses certain actors, which were only hired because they specifically broke canon, and we can't have that. They don't like that the Rings of Power has a predilection for shooting faces in close-ups, which seems so strange for people who are so obsessed with how a cast looks. But the show's most unforgivable sin is that it's boring. When anything vaguely exciting happens, it's over in seconds, whereas exposition is overdone, with dragging energy-free zones. It's only improved in the second episode, and all they wanted to do is just fast-forward 10 seconds all the time. Rings of Power may be sumptuous, gorgeous, and awe-inspiring, but as a whole, it's a mishmash of overly staged, overly stylized, and frequently misfiring ideas that don't work. And if that doesn't sum up exactly the problem with entertainment nowadays, then I really don't know what does. What you have is an entire institution which raises people to value the wrong things, to look at the world as if it's horrible, discriminatory, and as if the people in it are awful. It then treats those people with the same kind of level of disdain that you would expect from people who have such a low opinion of everyone around them in society that disagrees with them. And these people train the marketers. The marketers go out and treat the customers like filth. The people that give them money like filth. The people they require to even exist as a company like filth. And it all comes from this pompous, self-important, egotistical idea that you are the only person which knows anything about the world, that you are the ones with the correct opinions, the correct ideas, and anyone that disagrees with you is worse than just wrong. They're immoral, horrible, and need to change. And yet even when those people get exactly what they want, they're hired in the companies, they get the departments they want, they get to create the entertainment they want, with $1 billion budget, the biggest budget TV show they can, it turns out, oh yeah, our ideas actually suck and they don't make anything entertaining at all. And even then, I'm going to complain that you don't put enough of my ideas into it, while at the bottom, I'm going to say that the ideas actually don't work. It's an amazing circle of hell which reinforces itself and despises itself. The ideas are what create the crap entertainment, and yet when they review the crap entertainment, they hate the ideas. But oh yeah, we should just continue doing it, because the source material, you know, the successful thing, which made the entire thing possible in the first place, which is almost universally beloved around the entire world, sold more books than anything else. No, it's definitely the source material that's wrong. But when we escape the source material and get into a world that we control, we still don't like it. How about the next time your marketing department says, we're going to come out and just insult everyone that doesn't like our show? How about you take the marketing person and tell them that that's not how you do business? It might just be better to realize what you've done and then entirely change it for the second season. Because you can fix your mistakes. People love House of the Dragon, and that's helped recover that IP from them that it did for Game of Thrones. So you can do it. You can fix a disaster, but you can't when you come out with stuff like this. Do you want to get people's goodwill by insulting and attacking them? You think that's good marketing, do you? I don't think it's a good marketing strategy. I think that people are just so bitter and sour, and they despise the people that criticize them so much that they would rather tank the most expensive television show of all time than actually treat the fans with the respect they deserve. Treat the source material with the respect it deserves. It doesn't seem like you care about what you destroy. It doesn't seem that you care about the people defending the original source material. And it all seems to come from a pompous, arrogant attitude that you're just above everyone. You're the aristocracy, looking down on the plebs and telling them exactly how horrible they really are. That the only way you can feel like you're even of any value in the world is by dragging everyone else down. So pray tell, who's the horrible person in that scenario? But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.